And I wanted to talk about this topic because I think that many people got things wrong about the Epstein files. And I really thought, I personally have to say that I also got things wrong. And 1 week into this basically expose, and knowing that there's not going to be any more relevant files so far, there's many things that we can, let's say, we can address. And I wanted to write a blog post about this. I didn't have time today, but I want to make a video, this video that you're watching, and I'm going to speak in terms of what I've seen, trying to organize my ideas. Maybe I'm going to miss some spots, but this is going to be the essence. What do we know that is for certain so far? We know that the guy was this demon that exploited women and literally trafficked women, not only for himself, but other people. And that trafficking could be translated into prostitution. And that is important because see so many victims out there. I'm going to maybe do a deeper analysis. This is very delicate because I need to go victim by victim and understand what were the circumstances that they basically enter in these lawsuits against the Epstein estate, and some of them were paid millions already. Some of them were already had settled lawsuits against the Epstein estate. So that's one thing. Because in so many instances, I see that in so many instances that has been reported, the men who required Epstein's services, they were not exactly with underage women or girls. They were not exactly with girls. They were with, let's say, women of age, adults, young adults, but adults nonetheless. And those adults, in many cases, had agreed to a monetary exchange, which makes all the more complicated for their attorneys, I guess. This is the reality that we are into, and this is the thing that we need to address. Again, I would like to better organize my ideas over this, but this has been happening because people are asking, why are there no prosecutions? Why none of this perverts have been prosecuted, and why do we see all these emails of all this stuff? And Donald Trump, you know, for example, Donald Trump has been mentioned thousands of times, and you know how much that has been taken out of context when you take a look at the actual mentions on the Epstein files, and you see the track record of the actual relationship, a very short relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. And I also made a video about that. So you realize that there's a lot of fluff, and that's why Donald Trump called it a Democrat-made hoax, because during his Biden's administration, they basically opened a line saying, hey, you know what, you can call and say whatever tip you have about Epstein. And so many crazy people, so many deranged people called, and they just dumped all that out there, including the misleading tips. Now, we have spoken about this doctor, Peter Attia, for example, or we have spoken about Bill Gates as well, and we have spoken about Stephen Hawking, okay? We have spoken about this other guy, Deepak Chopra. We have spoken about all of them, and I have mentioned you over and over again. Did they do creepy stuff? And this photo of Mandelson, the guy from Britain, that is going to basically derail Keir Starmer's political career. I really hope that Keir Starmer basically quits next week. All this stuff, okay, is creepy. Maybe taking a picture in your underwear next to a young woman, maybe saying that a woman's intimate parts are low carb. Deepak Chopra saying that cute girls are forever. All of that is creepy. All of that can be disgusting, but it is not exactly illegal. That is the problem. You're going to see a lot of stuff that of this of the LinkedIn fatty as well. We saw that. I made a video about that. How much of that is illegal? How much of what surface is actually illegal? That is the problem. You need an actual cause, an actual stuff, and then people are asking the question. But there are videos. They say that there were thousands of videos of CP. I don't want to say the words of child, exploitation. What happened to those videos of child exploitation, of all those people doing all this stuff? Well, as far as I have understood what happened, most of that, the majority of that, falls into 3 or 2 categories. The first category is child exploitation downloaded by Jeffrey Epstein from the internet. So it's basically child exploitation of which nature, downloaded from the internet for, Jeffrey Epstein's own pleasure. Okay, so yeah, it's basically that is the first category. The second category would be Epstein's own recordings of the massages on him, of himself. Okay, the recordings of girls with him. That is the second one. And the third one would be in all cases, people that he knew, the powerful people, people like, I'm going to mention him as well, maybe Andrew, which we have not seen any sort of this videos, which is strange as well, okay, because we should have seen those by this point, because we know that he had cameras everywhere in his New York City mansion, for example, where Andrew went. There should be videos of his friends getting massages, right? But we don't have those videos. That is the piece of the puzzle that is missing. And I would say, okay, we were hoping that the swamp was going to be drained. We're going to have go to the bottom of this. We got Dan Bongino in there, and Dan Bongino already said, we look at the whole thing. Kash Patel, we look at the whole thing. I don't know what else. At this point, I think that, say that third bucket of powerful people doing stuff, I am not so sure that was going on. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that you're going to jump to conclusions that's called, oh, you're a pedo protector, Jesus, now they got to you, they're paying. No, really. I am trying to reach to a critical thinking conclusion from the content that we have seen so far. Again, there's still content of those 3 million documents out there. I don't know if there are still videos to be watched and to be analyzed. I would be glad to analyze any video that is released, but many of those videos are already old. We have seen them before. And the issue is that if there was actual demonic stuff, I'm pretty sure that this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, made sure to get rid of most of the evidence, that most of that must have happened at his island. And we now know that, 1, there were tunnels on that island, and 2, those tunnels were filled with concrete. Okay? So yeah, the island was sold a long time ago. There's new owners. That island still has all the vibrations, vibes, bad juju, bad energy, you call it, you name it, you know what I'm talking about, which I don't know how any business could thrive there. But the main stuff or the darkest stuff, I bet, was happening in those tunnels. And since those tunnels are filled, which I don't know how much concrete, how much cement you need to fill a whole ass tunnel. That's another thing. We should make some kind of, that should be easy to calculate. Maybe I could try to figure that out, because I think it should be a ton, because you're just literally filling tunnels with concrete. You would need a ton of concrete, and how does that work? I don't know. But the main issue is that we could have the proof of those tunnels and those on the concrete and everything, and we got that proof from the emails, right? Okay. And in the emails, we saw that thousands of mentions of Donald Trump, and we are seeing half the world. I know that you know that I'm in Europe, and here in Europe it's insane the amount of misinformation and disinformation that is out there. It's literally insane. And everybody is calling Donald Trump literally a PDF file, which is simply, okay, there's literally no proof out there. You say, okay, we have connected the dots. This is, oh yeah, he even ate I don't know, babies or something like that. There's no proof of that, and people are still running with the crazy tips. So my point is, some people are saying, okay, they are hiding some emails from us. I mean, so many people, including Howard Lutnick, including Donald Trump himself, including Elon Musk, so many of them have been exposed, quote unquote, with the current batch of emails. Why do you think they would be hiding any other batch of emails? And at this point, Dan Bongino would know if there was a missing batch of emails. So it would mean that Dan Bongino is also into it, or Kash Patel is into it as well, or Pam Bondi is into it as well. Again, if they are into this big conspiracy, there's nothing to do here. Again, that is a very pessimistic way of looking at things. I am trying to not only have critical thinking, but also try to be a bit optimistic about Donald Trump's actual intentions with all this. Because he warned us that this case was so tainted that many people were going to be destroyed just by association. And he was right. Not only the Crips, of course, the Crips had it coming, but so many people, just by mention, are being just completely destroyed. And my question is, creepy? Disgusting? Yes. Illegal? Is it illegal to have crude remarks about women over emails, over email conversations? Not exactly. That's not illegal. I've told you at the same time, you don't have to wait until someone is prosecuted and say, this is not a person that I want to get anywhere close to them. That's also a thing. But my take from the Epstein files is that, the guy was a monster. The guy did a lot of things for himself. And the most important thing, you see all the emails. This guy was writing emails every day. And all the emails had to do with how to connect powerful people together. And he was doing this for decades. He was doing this way before Donald Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago back in 2003. So that is the thing. And he had so many connections that even in the face of being convicted for soliciting and procuring underage prostitution in 2009, people still were looking for him. which of course they had. They they were free to do so, and they were free to reject that. It's like they say, is Mel Gibson in the Epstein files? No. Epstein was a master at blackmail. Yeah, but I think that Epstein didn't get to need to blackmail people, because you don't get to have all those connections by threatening any blackmail. In fact, you have all those connections with the exact opposite. You control all those connections. It's like, from what I've seen and the way people talk about him, and they say that, oh, it was bad picking up the phone, emailing him still, is that he didn't need to threaten people. Only by the sheer amount of connection that he had, it's like it was unavoidable. It was inevitable that these other powerful people were going to contact him. I need to talk to somebody. I need to have this meeting with, can you arrange this? Are you going to have this party? They use that. And at the same time, we need to address that. It's like the Stephen Hawking thing. That it's obvious that Stephen Hawking seems he didn't do anything there. Nothing of the sort. What we saw from Stephen Hawking was a comment from Epstein himself that said that one of his girls had sex with Stephen Hawking. So that was a message from Jeffrey Epstein to another person. So it was kind of hearsay. It's like I saw these headlines yesterday. Queen Elizabeth II mentioned in the Epstein files. And she was mentioned, and it was confirmed that she was okay with Prince Andrew doing all the debauchery that he did. She was endorsing it. And you know how our headlines nowadays, the titles never tell you the real story. You click in the story, you go for the email, and the email was Jeffrey Epstein telling another guy, totally, I don't know, John Doe, Jeffrey Epstein, right? Oh yeah, no, Andrew is okay. Oh yeah, his mom is okay with all this. All this is comments from Jeffrey Epstein to another guy. So it's at no point there's no email from Queen Elizabeth to anybody. Not even from Prince Andrew in that email. It's between Epstein and another guy making a comment that you can't even know if it's true. That is another main issue. How do you prove what is true and what is not? And when you see that's, makes great clickbaiting, yes. Are people going to click on that? Most people are not going to click with that. People are going to say, yeah, oh yeah, I knew all the time. Queen Elizabeth, people are going to say, because this is what's going to happen. They read, Queen Elizabeth is in the Epstein files, and their Somali level IQ brain is going to repeat to their peers, over the water cooler or the barbecue, did you know that Queen Elizabeth II was in the Epstein Island? Because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. They read this, Queen Elizabeth was in the Epstein files, and they're going to say the next day, Queen Elizabeth was at the island. And none of being in the Epstein files is just a reference of a comment of Epstein himself, and doesn't prove anything. So yes, it is so crazy. We are talking about I don't know how to put this. We are talking about something that yes was more fluff than anything in the end. And I don't know what to tell you. I'm at some point I'm happy that we are not run by a sort of a cabal of demons, and then I'm pretty sure that you're gonna reach out to me and say, Jesus, we are actually ran by a cabal of reptilian demons. And I would say, okay, fair enough. What do we do now? Do we know where they meet, have their meetings, or do we know if it is obvious that we cannot take them down. What can we do? Live our lives in despair because of that? Oh, so you mean that we just accept that? The problem is that we don't know exactly if that is happening. And if I have a responsibility, and we were talking about responsibility and platforms, and I have a platform, I have 1 million, more than 1 million body language bodies. My responsibility, my priority is your mental health. And I have tried to untie this knot in every single way possible. And I have mentioned the Nancy Guthrie case. And just by mentioning the Nancy Guthrie case, people have told me, hey, you're talking about that, you should be talking about Epstein. And I tell them, have you looked at my X account? Have you looked at my YouTube account? Have you looked at the videos that I've been putting out? Because I don't get these nightmares for nothing. I have been trying to make sense of all this. So yeah, it's very anticlimactic, but we can't say that Trump did not warn us about this. So what are my thoughts about this? 1 week that could change. Again, let's say that there were billionaires, powerful men, that Jeffrey Epstein brought girls to this man. There's one question, the single most important question. This question is multifaceted. Billionaires, powerful men that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked to them. Girls. The first one, were those girls underage? Single most important question. The second most important question is, because if they're underage, they have to absolutely need to be investigated and prosecuted. If those girls were not underage, if they were young adults, were they paid for their services? And we know for a fact that many of them were paid for those services. You might say, but that is still prostitution. Okay, yeah, but so do you have a case of soliciting prostitution over any of these guys? And the third thing that we need to ask is, from these victims, which of them already sued and got a settlement? We need to be realistic about this. That is trying to pick every single clue that we have so far. That is trying to assume that we are not run by a cabal of reptilian demons. There's a non-zero chance, of course, but I try to prefer to think that we are not run by, I don't know, the Illuminati or something like that. Because at the same time, I love a nice conspiracy myself. But at the same time, I say, okay, there's the Illuminati or whatever. If I can't do anything about that, I am powerless against these people. And what should I do? Well, the best that I can do is to try to live my life as best as possible. Try to not get much karma debt. I have not been an angel my whole life, so try to deal with that karma debt and try to do good with the world. That's the thing that I should focus on. Oh, we are run by the Illuminati. Okay, where are them? I don't know, but they're there. What can we do? I don't know, well, they're there. That is blackpilling yourself. So, again, it's going back to the evidence that we have so far. So many cribs out there, undeniable. But being realistic is the only path to remain sane. And that is my greatest concern, not only with myself, but with you as well. I want you to remain sane. I want me to remain sane. And I think this is what we should be aiming for. So I told you that in all cases, this is going to be like COVID-19. I believe, it is my firm belief that the world is not going to be fooled a second time by something like what happened in 2020. And I hope, this is my sincere hope, that whatever happened with Epstein and the emails and the people that are being exposed and the people that, all these men that are being exposed are creeps, serve as a lesson for future generations. Maybe in a couple of generations they're going to commit the same mistakes, but at least for one generation, maybe we can have the next 25 years with, the memory that this didn't work out well for all these perverts. And there's a reason for that, because they were exposed. And they were exposed, well, pretty much thanks to Donald Trump. And you're going to tell me, but Donald Trump did not want to release the Epstein files at some point. Yes, because he knew that this was going to happen, was going to be a full of, that's it? Is that it really? I mean, I was certainly disappointed, not gonna lie. But that is the current state of affairs with the Epstein files. 1 week after that 3 million release, maybe I will update you next Saturday. Wait 7 days until I give an update. People are still browsing the files and browsing the images, browsing the videos, finding stuff here and there. Let's see what they can find. And ultimately, so many people are saying, when I say, okay, this happened, so many people reach out to me. Jesus, we already knew that like years ago. All right, so what's new? What is exactly new? So many other commentators are asking, okay, they released 3 million pages. What is exactly new? And there are people that know 100 times more about this case than me. And they are all saying there's basically nothing new. There's nothing that we didn't know before. Okay, so we're all those conspiracies of adrenochrome, or at least Epstein, okay, we don't know what was sealed under concrete on that island. I have to ask that question as well. I have to pose that question and leave that question hanging there, because it's a legit question. But so far, this is what we got. Was worth our time? Absolutely, especially because, say, to understand that all these people, because there's one thing that I need to add. All these people that told us that something was not happening, it was indeed happening. Because there's another problem that has to do with Epstein that we have not addressed. And it's all those references to pizza and hot dog and melted cheese and everything else. And we know for a fact that they're not talking about pizza. What happened to that? I don't know, but being an Epstein adjacent topic, I guess that is a thread that we could begin pulling to see what happens, because that does exist. That is a concern. But for now, we don't have any more clues. I don't have any more clues to give you. So I might be referencing this in the future, in the following days, because there's a lot of stuff. But these are my thoughts. This is why, this is what I wanted to address. And this is the thing. You see people demanding not to vote for the midterms because they lied about about the Epstein. No, Trump didn't lie. It turns out that they just managed this in quite an incompetent way, Pam Bondi, and it was the worst optics possible. I mean that this has been a quite long section, but I would love to know what do you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.